Okay. Okay. So Vicky, first, thank you so much for participating.
Thank you for having me and being so flexible.
So we represent the Chinese American Parent Association of Howard County and the three Chinese schools, the Howard County Chinese School, the Columbia Chinese Language School, and the Peiying Chinese School. We solicited the questions from our community. So the questions, you already got it, questions there. So it represents a variety of topics that our community would like to hear your opinion about. So we got this question from our community, including the kids. And so after the interview, we will release the audio recording to our community, so they'll have help them to make an informed decision in November. Okay, so we have, I think it's 11 questions.
I know I reviewed all these questions like ages ago now, and I'm like, I think it all kind of makes sense. Like I don't feel like you need to study up on it. I think it's like issues that I've heard already from the community and speaking with people and learning more. Certainly, I didn't realize the chasm, I don't know if that's the word, between the school system and the Chinese community, and how, I feel left out, and now I am learning more about the extent to which, a very large segment of the population who wants to be involved, who wants to engage, and who wants to have a voice and to help be shut out. So it was eye-opening. So anyway, I'm off topic. I'm sorry. I tend to do that, but it's been very informative. I've really learned a lot. No matter what happens in November, it's been a good experience to learn, to get out of your bubble and learn more about other people and their struggles.
Right.
So, because we offer everybody else to have an opening statement if they choose to, and then a close statement.
Okay, sure. So how about we take a break after number 6, and then we come back.
Okay.
Okay. So would you like to start with a statement?
Sure. My name is Vicky Cutroneo. I have 3 children in the school system, and up until last year, I felt the school system was doing a pretty good job. My kids have had no issues, but they are typical students with just above average and no needs really. And once I had an issue, the mold and the air quality issues at our school, I learned how unresponsive the board was to the community. I was actually shocked that I was ignored. I felt like a health issue. What's more important than health? And it continued, and I felt, I learned that I was not alone, that other people had the same types, we had different issues, but the same problem that kind of interwove throughout the community that were just left out. So I decided to run for Board of Education to be the Board of Ed member that I needed, or that our community needed. I felt inclusive and responsive, and would seek out information from the community rather than rely on central office and other board members for information. So that's what started my journey. I'm running for purely organic reasons. I just want to make a better Board of Ed, and I feel like I can do that just because of my own experiences. I feel like I know I hear what people are saying. They just want to be heard. So.
Okay, thank you. So I'm gonna start. So the question number 1 is, CAPA and other community organizations would like to initiate a Asian American Community Roundtable. We would like to invite local elected officials and community leaders to meet with Asian Americans in our community on a routine basis, for example, quarterly. Would you like to participate? Any other thoughts on increasing open communication between HCPSS and the Asian community parents?
I think that's a fabulous idea. I think that the African American roundtables have had a lot of success doing that sort of thing, and I've been to a couple of their meetings, and it's been very informative, very well run, and I think it's been a benefit to the community. also it's good for lobbying and for, when for this type of stuff, for Board of Education candidates, to make sure that your voices are heard. I think that's a great idea, 4 times a year at the minimum. I think town halls are great ideas, and I think that I think that we're missing out on a huge resource with the Asian American community, with just the language schools. I mean, I was at the meeting at River Hill the other night, and you're hearing all these concerns about this distance learning, and this, I didn't know anything about it. I'm thinking, distance learning for Chinese language, like, that seems really crazy. Like, how can you learn a language distance? And one of the participants, I forget who it was saying the language school. We have certified teachers, and I'm thinking, why isn't there a partnership or some sort of relationship between the school system and the Chinese language, that sort of thing, to bridge that gap? If you need more teachers, or why are we doing this distance learning? So I know I'm off topic, but that is it. I think that having roundtables and that sort of a formal lobbying kind of, or that is a link between your community and the school system, would bring that sort of thing to the front, and would help bring the sort of community partnerships I think that we really need. I mean, I don't know what the percentage of the population is now that Asian American.
It's 20%.
It's huge. Mm-hmm. It's huge, and I think that we're just missing it's an engaged community. It's they want to help. Mm-hmm. They want to they want to just speak the Chinese language. So I think that is something that's a great idea, and I would be all for that. It's good to get out, like I said, to get out of your bubble and learn what the needs are, and I think that's a great way to do it, is to have these roundtables.
Right.
I'm sorry, I get off topic.
Yeah,
so
no, absolutely not. I totally agree there. Yeah.
But I'm sitting there at the meeting, and I'm like, they're not hearing what the community is saying. Mm-hmm. They just said, we have certified, Howard County saying, we have a shortage of certified teachers. Your community is saying, we have certified teachers. And I'm thinking, okay, we have why isn't there a partnership? And I know that you want that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have heard from other people that it's been, and you're shut down. So I think when you have a roundtable, some sort of formal group that is a link to the school system, that is not just, the Chinese American parents, this is something with the school system, I think it gives you more of a voice and more of a platform. So I think it's a great idea.
All right. Thank you. So the next question, in the past years, it seems that increasing numbers of students are placed into GT programs. The size of the GT classes is forever growing. At some schools, more than 40% of students are in GT math. So there are also some schools that try to place more students into GT English. The teachers have to slow down the pace to accommodate the students who are struggling in the GT class. On the other hand, some students feel the class materials are repetitive and they are not being challenged enough in the class. So what are your thoughts on this issue?
I have also noted that even in my kids' own schools. My one daughter was pushed into GT. She really shouldn't have been. That was like the numbers. And so the kids who deserve to be in there, now the class has to slow down for students like her who really shouldn't. There's nothing wrong with being on your own level. Why are we pushing kids who shouldn't be there? So the kids who are in GT, who need to be challenged, who are there because they are, above average, way above average learners, it's a disservice to them because the teacher has to focus attention on the students who need help, and those students who probably aren't making a lot of trouble, sitting there reading, they aren't getting what they need from the school. It's like we're lowering standards to meet these standards instead of elevating everybody. This is not, closing the achievement gap is not bringing the top down to meet the bottom, and I think that's what's happening with our students. And it's a numbers game. It's like the school system wants, we have 40%, and in reality, who's to say that's great? Who's to say that, we have all these students in GT when they don't deserve to be there, or they shouldn't be there for their own learning needs. So I agree. I think that we need to relook at GT and the requirements to be in that class and stick to them, and not have all these, oh, well, they almost made it, and, let's push them. So I think that we need to refocus the numbers game that the school system seems to be. Let's more and more kids, and let's get rid of honors classes. Let's just go from regular to GT. It's like we're losing. I know that we've lost a lot of honors classes. So it's like either
high school.
Yeah, it's either you're on grade level or it's GT.
Mm-hmm.
There's no, because I think that the school system wants these numbers, this GT number. It's all smoke and mirrors, I think. So my 3 children are different levels. I've got one that's AP everything, like, one that's, she gets pushed into GT, and one that is rock solid on grade level. So I see the pressure that, I got letters, we should try and place her in GT, and I'm like, well, she didn't test into it. Why are we pushing her into, but there's no honors class. So parents are like, oh yeah, GT,
Mm-hmm.
That sounds, yeah, my kid's GT, but in reality, it's doing no one any favors. Your kids are, they're sitting there bored, and they need to be challenged, So
Right.
I definitely agree that we need to relook at the whole GT and honors, and make sure that we have a place for each student. And it's not the be all end all to be in GT if you're not ready. And then you get to college. We have so many kids who go to Howard Community College who need to take remedial math, because they were just getting pushed along in class, in a class that they couldn't keep up with. So we certainly need to get in touch with reality and stop with the whole image and numbers and look how many students we have in GT. The kids who belong in GT, they deserve the attention of the teacher and to be pushed. And we're lowering their experiences in the school system. So sorry, I went off track again, I think.
No, that's perfect.
Yeah,
That's perfect.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so funny because
We
I
love
have
it,
3
yeah.
different types of students, and I'm, I appreciate each one of them, and I don't try, I feel like there's a place for everyone, and you do the very best with where you are, and pursue what you love, and not these lofty expectations.
Very good perspective.
I can't stop her. There's nothing I can do.
Right.
It's like a runaway train. And then my middle one is just a very creative and very introspective, and she's the one that's getting pushed. And I'm like, that's not her thing.
Right.
It's not her path in life, and we're pushing, and I think we're pushing students into a path that may not be, because we want numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And
Look good on paper.
we want to look good on paper.
Yeah.
And in reality, I think we have a lot of unhappy children because we're not, we're putting pressure, and it's all smoke and mirrors,
Yeah.
So, sorry.
Okay. Sorry, I think my
I
recording
tend to
paused.
just cut me out. Just go like this.
Yeah.
No, it's from the phone call I got.
Oh.
It just automatically paused.
Oh.
Okay. Okay, so number 3, we believe the school system should raise the floor, just like what you just said, without pulling down the ceiling.
That's the word I was looking for. Raise
Right.
the floor to meet the roof.
Mm-hmm.
It benefits everybody in our community when each student can achieve her highest potential. To raise the floor, the school system needs to invest more in the programs, helping kids who are lagging behind, such as the morning program and the summer program. We would like to hear your plan to improve these programs or introduce new initiatives.
I think right now what's happening is doing a huge disservice to the most vulnerable children is the increasing class size, and I think that is it's probably the number one way to raise the floor is fewer classmates in your class and more attention from the teacher. And right now our priorities are spending money somewhere off on some top curriculum, chasing, and we've taken paraeducators out of the classroom. We've increased class size. We've got 29, 30 kids in a class. The most vulnerable kids, they're the ones who are going to suffer with that kind of thing. They're the ones who can't make up for it. My kids, they can make up for it. We have the resources for tutoring, and we have the resources but it's those kids. So the school system can't talk about closing the achievement gap or whatever, and still do these sorts of things that take away from the classroom. I think that is the priority, is funding the classroom and decreasing class size and putting paraeducators back in there so that the students who need it get the attention that they need. And that's how in early kindergarten, first grade, when you have 27 classmates in your first grade
exactly.
class,
My son
you cannot learn. You can't. The students who who are more academically gifted, they'll be okay. They can get by. It's the students that who live below the poverty line, who English is a second language, who just arrived from another country, and all of a sudden they've got 28 classmates and 5 of them have IEPs, and there's no support for the teacher. There's no way we can talk about raising the floor by taking away from the classroom and chipping away at the. I just believe that the teacher, the classroom is the foundation of our school system, and we are just chipping away, and we're spending our money on unproven programs and things to make us look good, and our most vulnerable kids are the ones who have learning needs and things like that. They're the ones who are suffering. So I think I know that I'm off topic again, but I just feel like we can't even have a conversation without decreasing the class size. Like, that would be my number one. I truly cannot believe that the board approved that. It should be a non-negotiable. As that you find other ways to cut before you take away from the classroom and before you take away paraeducators and support. So I just don't think we can even have a conversation when we have class sizes. They will go to 32 students before they get another teacher. 32 in a class.
Right.
That is crazy.
That's also happening in the GT classes. Like, one of my daughter's classes,
I'm gonna write it down.
They don't even have a table. The regular desk.
What school is this?
Bonnie Branch. They have to.
I have to write this down because I'm collecting information.
They have to use the teacher's table or something else alternative to sit on. So it's just ridiculous.
They have to use a teacher's table.
Yeah. It's a very small and
in a GT class.
It's a GT class, yes.
What class is it?
It's a social studies. Either
what grade is it?
Yeah, 7th grade. It's a small classroom, and when my older daughter was in, the class size is small. Okay, so they're fine. It's a very small.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a little bit bigger than this, maybe. So it was already crowded, but now my second daughter is in that classroom. And because they increase the size of the GT, they have nowhere to.
How many students are in the GT class?
I would guess somewhere between 25 to 30, maybe more than that. I don't remember.
How can you?
Right. It's a big class.
How can you give the students what they need with that many? And that's why I just feel like we can't move on until
I think they have
decrease our class sizes.
2 GT classes.
No, we just keep putting more and more students in it.
Right.
And there's no way a teacher can give everyone what they need, especially when you're putting kids in it who aren't up there,
Mm-hmm.
aren't up to speed.
Mm-hmm.
That's just heartbreaking. I mean, I keep hearing stories because I'm collecting class sizes
Mm-hmm.
from parents and teachers, and I heard 32 students.
Yeah, my son's class, he's a 3rd grader. It's 27. 3rd grade.
20.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't think we can have a conversation. I just feel very strongly about class size. I think it's, especially in the early grades, in kindergarten, and I just feel like we can't even move on. And I think that the board has lost sight of how important that is. I mean, they sit there and talk about wanting, Sandy French was crying at the last, and I was like, well then say no. Don't approve this. Say no, we need to look, let's cut this, let's cut that. There's so much. I mean, there's $48,000 we spent on car allowances for central office. That's a salary. There's just so many ways that we waste money, and it's just heartbreaking. I just feel for people whose kids are struggling and lost in these classes with 30 classes. I mean, how?
Yeah, we spend so much money, but still asking parents to donate tissue boxes.
And the MOUs, when they took away that, I mean, one of the things that has come out of this, regardless of what happened, I've become like the person that people send information to, and I get like copies of emails from central office, and I'm able to publicize how they'll say no cuts to the classroom, but then they've cut their MOU, which is materials of instruction, that MOI. And that's the fund that teacher uses to paper and things like music teachers will use it to buy instruments. Like it's like a whole bunch of stuff, and they cut that in half. So now teachers like in the schools that are have a lot of Title I schools, they rely on that because the parents don't have the resources like out where we live. Well, the West, we'll just we have more resources and we can kind of make up for it. But now we have classrooms that the teachers don't have paper. I mean. And the teachers are expected, they'll go out and buy it because that's what teachers are about. They're going to figure it out. But now we cut in half. And it's like, look at all the money we're spending on these unproven programs. And we don't have paper and tissue. I mean, it's just half. They took away half of the budget.
And I know a lot of teachers, they spend their own money to buy stuff.
They do.
And like some schools, PTA is very, they are very generous.
They have more resources.
So they give each teacher a certain fund.
Right.
But is this supposed to be school's fund? I mean, it's just, what about those schools that the parents cannot afford to?
Exactly. That's who, again, it's the most vulnerable students.
Right.
Who are at the floor, right? They're in the floor.
Right.
Okay, I hate that visual, but they're sitting on the floor.
Right.
Okay, now they have 30 classmates. Now they don't have paper. Now they don't have this. They don't have that. I mean, how are we able to lift them up when we don't give them the very basics?
Right.
And we keep cutting away. And to take away half of their MOI budget for teachers, I mean, then they have to spend, and teachers aren't making money. The schools, the poorest and the poor areas, those teachers are the ones that have to go out to Staples and buy all this stuff to make up for it. It's unfair. It's just another thing that just, but it boggles my mind how this board can talk about these closing the achievement gap, their terms, not mine, and then do this kind of stuff. Like,
right.
Well, in the last board, in the August board meeting, Ellen Flynn Giles said, when they were talking about the MOI, she was saying, well, we have to separate what is a want and what is a need. Like, she was saying that materials of instruction is a want, not a need. Like, that's just extra. But it's a necessity. It's paper. It's like, it's not a want, it's a need. And I think that's the disconnect that the school board has right now, that they just, we have to achieve vision to whatever,
28,
whatever.
18, yeah.
That's all they keep talking about. We have to, and so we need map testing, we need, strength finders, Gallup polls, all these kinds of things. Blinders on, as long as we get to vision, it doesn't matter that our kids don't have paper, because that's a want. And it's just disconnected. It's like, how can you sit there and say that that's a want and not a need? That just shows the level of you not in the classroom. All of these decisions are made by people who are not in the classroom, who are not, So I was like, paper is a want? Isn't it kind of necessary? I mean, musical instruments, when you're teaching music, it's kind of necessary so I'm off topic again. It's just, it gets me so angry.
Okay,
I don't even know what the question was. Hopefully I answered it. Oh, this is,
So the question was about the raise the floor without pulling down the ceiling.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I just think that we have all these great ideas, but I just think we need to fortify the floor before we move on. We need to, my first thing, budget. We need to review the budget. We need, and then to make sure we're spending our money. We don't even know how much it costs. I know Christina says the budget is Christina's thing, and I always go to her because that's how she's, and she's right. We don't know how much it costs to run the school system. We have no idea. They just approve things, and so until we know that, until we put the money back in the classroom and decrease class size and that sort of, I don't feel like we can even explore programs that will raise the floor. We need to. I mean, I'm not saying that that's not important, but we definitely need to. I mean, we need to elevate our top students to go beyond and to push them and to challenge them. It is not fair that they're sitting in class bored. Then they go to tutoring and they're learning more in tutoring than they are at school. It's like, I mean, how does that feel, like, as a parent, that you spend all this money on tutoring and wanting, your goals are, SAT, good scores, and to get into a great college and very competitive college. You need these classes. You need that. I mean, how does it feel as parents to feel like your kids are wasting their time at school? They're not learning anything because they're sitting there because classmates need all the attention. It must feel like you're paying all these taxes and you're paying all this money for tutoring. Like, what are you doing? I mean, it must be, your community must be a little disgusted. I don't know if that's the word, but just, what's the word? Disillusioned with the school system and the direction it's going?
Asian
Yeah.
community. Well,
you're raising, the Asian community is raising the floor up right now.
Right.
I mean, because the SAT scores, we improved because of the Asian community. Everyone else, that's the way that the schools, the spin that they like to give, we improved it. No, we didn't improve SAT scores. The Asian kids pulled everybody up. And so it improved our SAT scores across the board. But if you look at African Americans, Caucasians, we didn't improve. We actually did worse. So I feel like, for the Asian community, you must feel like, well, what's in it for us? If we're left to, pull everybody up, and your students aren't getting what they need to achieve their goals. I mean, they have it. I don't know. I feel like it must be a little.
We feel being penalized by working hard.
Right. Like, you are. You are.
That's exactly how
you're
we
pulling,
feel.
and you are. And I get it. I mean, I had no idea. Like I said, you got to get out of your bubble and listen to other people, and that's because you're not getting anything out of it.
No, not at all. So, SAT score. I mean, you go to tutoring to improve SAT score. It's not really learning something.
Right.
But you have to, because
and you're not learning how to learn. Those are,
right.
That's where I think the school system is. We're very data oriented, and I think we need to get away from that. And what students need is to learn how to learn and to figure things out and to experiment and to explore and not look at a screen on their own device and Google it.
Right.
To learn how, and I think that we have gotten away from that because we're, the direction is data and looking good and statistics and then we have kids who don't know how to research. And it's not what you've learned, it's how you've learned it. And it's the process. And the kids that you take the SAT review, you're just learning for you're learning how to take the SAT. That's not learning how to figure something out. But yeah, I'm off topic. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I am very passionate.
Great.
I start.
And
I'm like, what was the question?
So the next question. Many research shows that socioeconomic status instead of race has a bigger impact on a student's academic performance. What are your views? if you are elected, how would you evaluate the situation? And how would you make policies to direct the resources to the students and families in need?
I guess again that goes back to what I've been saying is fortifying the classroom. And I know that the schools that are Title I get more resources, but I think that the socioeconomic I agree with that. I think that when you have parents that are stressed, are working 3 jobs, are not at home, not there to help you with your homework and to be in the classroom, no fault of their own. It's just life situations that those students need a lot during the time that they're in school, because they're not going to get what other students might get, like tutoring or the one-on-one attention from the parents and after-school programs and things like that. So I think I agree with that. I think that those schools, we really, even though they have funds to have extra teachers there, I think we need to, again, adjust the class size and make sure that those schools have the resources that they need. We need more paraeducators in those classrooms to identify the kids who are at risk. We need more, I think we need more minority teachers. We need more people that can connect with those students. My daughter has gone through, she's a senior, she's not had one minority teacher except for Spanish classes. And I think about that in terms, like if she were a minority and she had no one to, you need models and, oh, I could do that. Oh, this person can identify with me in my situation and things like that. So I think we need to look at how we're recruiting and make sure we're focusing on those schools and the students that are poor and don't have the resources, the parents don't have the resources. They can be lifted up just by being in an environment that is accommodating, that has staff, has the resources. They can be lifted up. And their socioeconomic status isn't that much of a big deal anymore if they can be lifted up and they can get the resources that they need during the school day. So when they go home, it's all bets are off. They don't get what they need. So I agree with that. But again, it all comes down to the classroom and staffing it and making sure we have educators in there that are have the training and the background to teach kids who don't speak English, who have disabilities and things like that, and to identify and put them in classes where they that are best suited for them.
Okay. So the next one, the school system conducted a survey on religious culture holiday observance. Actually, the report was
read it
out
last night.
Yeah. So if you are elected, how would you like to use the results of the survey to benefit the HCPSS community?
I think I read it real quick last night, like at midnight, and it was interesting in that, like, I guess most people feel that we follow the state mandated holidays, and then for a holiday that would have a negative impact on the school system, we should close down, which makes sense, And what I don't think is that we have accurate data on how many students are of a particular religion, like what would cause because you said 20%, that is a lot of students. And then when you take into account staff, would it cause a hardship for the school system to close down for the lunar holiday? But we don't know. We don't know how many students. We don't have that data to give us that information. We can't close down for every. I mean, it disrupts the school week. I think students learn better, and when you go to school for 5 days. So we can't close down for every holiday, and I get it. Like at the last forum, I don't know who I was speaking with, but she said her son, now that the Chinese is a school day off, it's a bigger deal to him that the school is off. So it made me think, that makes sense. Like if your holiday is really important to you, but it's not off for the school system, it may not be that big of a deal for a kid. Like they kind of lose touch with that. So it did make me think, because I was always like, well, it's a mandated holiday, and if it causes a disruption in the school, we should close down. Like we have to we can't break the law. As a school system, you have to follow the law. You can't shut down for secular reasons without it, just because it's a holiday for somebody. But that made me think, when you have a large percent of the population, and then the kids saying, oh, wow, it's a big deal. School's off for it. Like, because she was lamenting that, and it's not that big of a deal anymore. We're losing touch with our, heritage and things like that. So it made me think. Like I'm seeing the other side. How I try to think, what if we went to school on Christmas? Like, how would that?
Yeah, especially
everybody's holiday is a huge deal to them, and I get that. I'm very empathetic. Like I always try to think, what if it was Christmas and my kids are going to school? Like, how would that make me feel? And with that being said, we can't close down for everybody. Even though everybody's holiday is very important to them, we can't do that. That's not the mission of the school system. We have, our mission is to educate, and but I don't think that there's clear-cut answers. I think what we need first is to get the data and to see how much of an impact it would have on the school system to close down, and to not put it on the calendar as just a day off. Like if we're off for the Chinese lunar, that's what we're off for. I think they're trying to make it a professional day. I'm like, well, that takes away the whole point of it. Like if you're, if it's a day off from school, you should put on the calendar why we're off, not.
Right, now they are taking every holidays off, like including Christmas. They don't put on that day, they put in the box. And the same for all the holidays. And Lunar New Year, because it's combined with a professional learning day, it's not an extra day off.
Right, and so they didn't put what it was off for, right? They said professional day.
Right.
So kind of like they're trying to have it both ways. Like, we'll have it off, but we're not going to call it that we're off for that. And I feel like if you're going to be off, we should, we're off for I'm just very black and white. We're off for that reason. They made it, they jiggled with the calendar so that it could coincide with the professional day. But it's kind of having it both ways, I feel like if you're off for it, you're off for that. And a large percentage of it would cause a major impact on the school system to be open today, because we have such a large population of Asian kids and staff. We would need all these subs, and so we're off. We're off for the lunar. It's not a professional day. So I don't think there's any clear-cut answers. I think we need first is the data. Like, what kind of impact would it have on the school system to close down? That being said, I get it, why it's important. And especially, when you're feeling like your children are losing touch with their heritage, it is a big deal. If you're off school for something, it's a big deal. And
let me mention this. Also, from kids' point of view, if they observe their own holiday, do not close, but other holidays close, that is a big impact on us.
It does.
That means other holidays.
Oh, well, that's a big deal,
important
right? Exactly.
Than our own holidays,
right?
From the authorities' point of view, because the teachers, the school authorities, they to their eyes, they're
right,
very
and
important.
That made me consider it, because I hadn't considered it from their eyes before I had this conversation, and I said that makes total sense, because if we went to school on Christmas, it wouldn't be that big of a deal anymore, would it? I mean, it's another thing, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
so I saw it from another view, and but again, you can't break the law and make something a holiday if it doesn't cause an impact on the school system. So we have to meet those kinds of requirements too. Also, I don't think the school system does a good job of communicating excused absences. Like, I think, you get 3, and it's like, I don't think people know that, and that on those days, on the major holidays, I think it was in the document last night, to make sure there's no testing, there's no major sports events, there's no, so if they did have to take it off, they wouldn't. but don't have a test when the kid comes back from school, you know. But I think that in the past that the school system did not do a good job of communicating excused absences, because kids don't want to miss school. I mean, some kids don't want to miss school. I mean, it's a huge deal to miss a day of school. So that's another thing. It's hard because the kid's more likely to miss school even though it's not a day off school.
I mean, even there's no test, they still have to make up the homework.
It's still a day.
Right, yeah.
You know, and I think that's what they were trying to get by with the professional day. Mm-hmm. Like it was kind of like having the best of it. Like they're not going to miss school, but we're not going to call it. We're off for that reason. So then we're not in violation of state law. Mm-hmm. You know, right. So it was a way to kind of. But that, if you're doing that for everyone, you're really cutting up the calendar. We got a lot of 4 days, 3 days. You know, you're really, and I think, you know, we can't do that because kids learn better when you go 5 days in a row. You know, 2 days off. You know, that also is an impediment to especially, you know, and again, the kids who parents, they rely on childcare. You know, it's hard to plan for childcare when it's 2 days on, 1 day off. So it's important to keep it 5 days and so there's a lot that goes into it. But you don't want to. We can't break the law by being off for school when it wouldn't cause an impact on the school system. That is just, we can't do that as a state, you know, law. But there's a lot that goes into it, and seeing it from a kid's eye has been, you know, that's what I keep thinking. Like, yeah, if we went to school on Christmas, we would lose. I mean, I think it's not that important. Mm-hmm. You know, we're not even off school. So I get it. And I think that, but I don't think that we realize, or the school system realizes how much of the population is Asian, and that it would cause an impact, especially in certain areas, especially in Ellicott City, you know, in the schools in this area.
Yeah.
So.
And some schools are like 30% Asian, 30, 35 even. So I heard some schools.
That's huge.
So
I think that they need to look at that too.
Yeah.
I think because if certain schools are going to be impacted, they need to look at that too.
Right.
That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think Centennial Lane is like 40.
40?
Wow. Yeah. And then Clarksville Elementary is it's about the same. I think it's also 40.
See, we need that data, like to because that would be really useful.
Yeah, the school actually has that data.
I know. I don't always believe their data though. It's like I'm just always like whatever report they give me, I'm always like, okay, let me have the real. It's terrible. Exactly. I'm just very suspicious of everything. It's just experience. I was never always this way until last year. I was very like, but now I'm like, I don't believe this. So I guess I need to have faith in the data, but I don't right now. I don't know if they've spun it in a way that would benefit them. They're very good spinners. I tell you what, they can spin like I have never seen before. But so what is the data that they have? What is the percentage?
Oh, for the survey.
Yeah, I just skimmed it. It's like it was midnight last night.
For the survey, there are 11% people who did the survey.
See, that's the thing. We don't have the
Lunar New Year.
How many? You know, we don't have. Not everybody took the survey, so it's
right.
Who's more likely to take the survey? If English is it did come in different languages, right? Did it come in different languages? Okay.
Chinese and Korean.
Okay. Well, that's right.
Language.
That's always surveys are always just very subjective. It's hard to. What's the percentage of the Chinese population that took the survey out of the total?
We don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah, see, that's what I would look at, and I like to look at the numbers behind the numbers, and so if it's the same as the percentage of other groups, then it's fine. But if a lower percentage of, then you know what I'm saying? It's just.
But 11% of the parents who participate observe Lunar New Year, so we know.
And
that's significant.
So for the
because I don't know what, but the total, but that's a significant number.
Yeah, and for the there were 8% people participate in the survey celebrate the Jewish holidays.
Wow.
And the Jewish holidays officially off in the school calendar.
Right, both of them. Right. Yeah, I would have to believe that it's more, that I would have to believe. It's interesting, but yeah, I think we need the percentage of students and how percentage of students that are Jewish, percentage of and staff. And
we don't know.
We don't know
how the percentage of Jewish students and the staff in the school, because it's illegal to ask people
That's true.
civil servants. And this survey is legal because it's voluntarily based. That's what we heard from school.
Right. Yeah, so how did they determine that you're off for the Jewish holiday if you don't know the percentage?
Mm-hmm. Right.
You just have to wait. Oh, we have no staff or students today. We'll make it a holiday next year.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how they do it? I mean,
No, it was established 30 years ago
Mm-hmm.
in 79, and back then,
1979.
1979. Back then, there are a lot of teachers absent on that day,
Mm-hmm.
about like 12%.
Yeah, the
12%. Yeah.
staff absence
Yeah.
was 12%.
I would have to believe, the student absence would be more than,
It wasn't. There was no data on that.
yeah.
Right. Just a staff absentee on on those two particular days. So they decided to close Yom Kippur and the Rosh Hashanah. And now the school wants to revisit. But here's the survey. Yeah. So.
Okay, so the next question. Oh, so we already kind of talked about it.
Yes.
Do you support closing schools on Lunar New Year and Lunar New Year Eve, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Eid al-Adha, and Diwali, Christmas and Easter?
Did I answer that question?
Yeah, I think it's already answered.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
let's
right,
move on to
right.
the next, yeah.
Okay, so we said we're gonna take a break after number 6. Do you
Okay.
wanna take a break?
We can just keep going. I think, yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, okay. So number 7 is, how do you plan to increase Chinese language service and support in Howard County Public Schools?
Oh, I have a lot of ideas now.
Okay.
Well, after going to that, can you tell me what caused the change in the programming for the AP Chinese language class at River Hill?
To my understanding, is because of this year's budget cut, every school asked to cut something, okay?
Uh-huh.
And the school principal decided to cut Chinese AP.
It was a last minute decision.
And to make it a distance.
Right.
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 That I just feel personally that language is probably the worst class to be a distance.
Right.
I mean, it's being in the classroom and speaking, engaging with people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how. I went to the meeting the other night. I didn't even know what it was. I just knew that there was a meeting and I wanted to go, and I didn't know what it was really about. And I was
Okay.
sitting there, and I'm like, distance? Like I couldn't believe it. And for AP China, like, it's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've never taken, but I would think that it's not an easy
Mm-hmm.
course.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like they're sitting and their teacher is at Appleton. I was shocked.
Right.
I, as a novice or just somebody who doesn't know that, I guess it just makes sense to me that when you're in a language class, you're being surrounded by people speaking it, and
Need more
you
interaction.
need more. It's based on interaction and feedback.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
and I was shocked at I was sitting there like, what? And the school system reps are there touting how great it is, and I'm like, is this real? Is this a reality? And the parents are, we have the Chinese language school, and I'm thinking, why aren't we using that
Mm-hmm.
as a resource, as some sort of partnership?
Mm-hmm.
Because that is the Chinese language school is a huge, I don't know what the word is, but it's a legitimate, been in place. It is a huge resource for the community. Kids, I don't understand how we're not taking advantage of that.
Right.
Has it happened in the past? I know when the school system went on their trip to China, I'm still trying to figure out what the benefits were. Was there some sort of push for there to be more partnerships? Is that?
Well, I'm not involved in the Chinese school, but I believe they're having push for years, and 4 or 5 years ago they started a Chinese piloting program in 2 elementary schools. But then at the last minute they decided to pilot both Chinese and Spanish in those 2 schools.
Do you know what schools they were?
I don't remember. Is that
Pilot study, Howard County is a place where the pilot study comes to go and die. Like, you never know what the results are.
right?
You just, you know how many pilot studies we've had, and there's no data. It's like,
Right.
isn't the pilot, the point of it is to get the data to see if it's working, and then you expand it? No, we don't do that.
No.
No.
And then after 2 years of piloting, they decided to do Spanish only in those 2 elementary schools, and expanded to 4 other elementary schools.
So that became the
And they
world
stopped
language,
Chinese.
and they stopped Chinese.
Stop Chinese.
So that was, I mean, I just know, I was trying to read about the Chinese trip, and I thought that part of it was to bring it to, you know, I don't know, the word is partnerships, or more, you know, collaboration, and to have more formal programs in place, and it doesn't seem like we've done anything. When you're learning Mandarin via a computer, I don't think we've made much progress.
No, and I think it
And I
really
can't believe
needs
that
to
was
start
cut.
young.
I can't believe that of all classes.
Right, and you need to really start when they are little. You know, you don't miss the opportunity.
That's what I was saying. Do we have after school programs through the Chinese language school? Do we, you know, like, there's so many things we could do. I just don't understand, you know, I know I'm off topic, but that, it kind of goes to, I just feel like we have untapped resources at our fingertips with people who want to help, who are, you know.
Right. I think this question is for language support. That means interpreters. I guess that's what it means, right? We collect it from one parent. Language service and language support.
Language service and
I
support.
think it's more.
So but
the
the next question is
interpreter.
about the teaching.
Oh, okay. Yeah. This question is more about the language service. That means the interpreter for the county meetings, you know, all county level meetings and PTA meetings, you know, those kind of things.
Yeah. So
Are there any services?
They do, but it's limited because they don't have enough.
What do you need? Like, where do you think it's, here I'm asking you, I'm interviewing you. Where is it lacking?
Okay. Well, for example, PTAC meetings or CAC meetings, those, you know, advisory meetings. I know there are not many Asian parents go there. But main reason for that is because they afraid that their English is not good enough, you know. And when I promote those meetings, almost all the time, the first question would say, you know, my English is not good enough. You know, I'm afraid that I cannot, you know, communicate well in those meetings. So that really discouraged them to go to those meetings. And we do have interpreters, but very, very limited. I guess there are.
So would they want more? Would they want an interpreter to come to, like, say, if they have questions, to ask the questions for them? So is that what they want?
I think
because they understand English. Like, it's just, is the understanding the English better than the speaking? I know that I understand.
Yeah, some parents they can understand. You know, they would feel more comfortable to ask questions in Chinese and somebody interpret them.
Gotcha.
But some parents may even need interpret what the presenter says. So there are different needs. And it's a paid position. I believe it's $20 an hour. I could be wrong, but you know, it's not much, but you know, it's paid. So it's another budget issue. You know, whether you can hire enough people to send to those meetings. I think they do.
Seems like there's a better way. just, I mean, the $20 an hour, I mean, come on, they can, seriously, this is what they spend, the money that's wasted, it's just, so more interpreter services for meetings.
Right, and it's under management of the International Student Office. And they have very limited staff, and I always advocate for more liaisons. For each school, at least you have a Chinese or Korean, to make parents more comfortable to get involved in PTA.
And then they'll become more empowered.
Right.
Because if you're afraid to advocate because you feel like, your English isn't good, and then, and that's what we need.
Right. They're afraid to come to PTA meetings. Because, to be honest with you, my daughter was very young and I went to my school's PTA meetings, I didn't understand what they're talking about. It's not just because of the English, because we grew up in a totally different education system, and it's just you're lacking of this cultural background to understand what they are doing, what they're talking about. So
it's what we take for granted, as and what about if there are students who are bilingual and need community service hours? And they could be, that sort of thing. If it's a budget issue, I always think about using the resources that we have. If they're going to talk about budget, let me talk about, this student who, speaks, is bilingual and, and they can earn service hours doing that. I just think about, we have a lot of resources in our community. We have a lot of bright students. We have, I was at an African American roundtable and they were talking about needing after school tutoring for the students who just didn't get it during class. And I said, well, the National Honor Society, those students need service hours. Why isn't there some sort of partnership between the high school and the feeder middle school? Because they're like, oh, and I'm like, because my oldest is NHS and she tutors and that's how I know it. But people don't necessarily know that there's free tutoring available through the NHS. People just don't know that because the school system doesn't communicate it.
I didn't know until this year.
I know, and it's that should be free tutoring. And I'm like, if we had a program where seniors would drive to the middle school or the elementary school and have a part, and then the kids have a mentor really, and they're going to that school. It's free, we just need to get the transportation after, but I'm just we have so many resources. Let's use what we have if you're going to talk budget. But certainly there's got to be bilingual students who, would probably like it, So I just feel like there's always...
That's a great idea, yeah. Okay. I never thought of using students, but I was thinking to use parents, but there is a difference between you can talk and understand, then you can interpret.
Right.
It's hard to interpret. I try.
Understanding is always the hardest part. Comprehending.
Yeah, but you understand in one language and interpret to another language. That requires some training. To be honest with you, and because I did it before.
There are probably some students who are, but that would be something we could talk to the Chinese language school. I mean, there might be, students who need hours or they're pursuing a degree and it would look good to do that on their college application. They're pursuing a language degree, so get around the school system budget. Okay, sorry, off topic.
Well, that's a great idea.
Yeah, that's great. So next question is kind of you already answered.
The
the River Hill High School.
Oh, was that on there?
Yeah. So recently the River Hill High School.
I don't know what it's about, but I'm going.
Canceled its 2017 Chinese AP4 in-class teaching, which has a huge impact on the students taking the class, and students who plan to take the class in the future. So just for your reference, over 66% students taking Chinese AP classes there do not have Chinese cultural background. The school system is quickly moving to online teaching, even for world language class or with computerized teaching. So how do you view this? We already know your
I don't. I think it's, I mean, I don't know, I can't find the word to describe how I just can't believe a language class was picked. Out of pick a math class, pick a, something that's more black and white. Language is so, it's got to be immersive to work. You've got to be in the environment where everybody's speaking it, and it's to make that distance and impersonal and lack of immediate feedback from your instructor. Some students thrive on that. They need feedback. Like, that's the kind of learners that they are. And when you take away that, I just, and someone expressed that at the meeting, like, my kid needs feedback to move on to the next they need, and it's gone. And I'm shocked. I couldn't believe, I actually forgot about it when I was at the meeting. I can't believe that it was approved, that this is even and I'm already trying to think of a way to reverse it, and not reverse it, but make change this year, because I think it's unfair.
Yeah.
I don't think they can make a change this year, but
Oh,
they even
never say
did a
never.
promise to. They even did
The
a promise
class
to
already
revisit next year.
starting, right?
Huh?
What?
Did they say they're going to revisit next year?
There's no promise.
No, they didn't
No,
say
it's a
that.
pilot. We will never know.
Right.
I mean, I can't express to you how, I don't know the word, I shouldn't use disgust, but I am disgusted that was taken away. I read the feedback from the student who, I think it was posted, how upset she was. She was a graduate.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I saw that other, yeah.
It, if that right there doesn't convince the school system that they've made a mistake, I just think that there are other classes far better suited for distance than a language. I don't understand how this could have even happened. And 66% of the students do not have a background in so sometimes I think the school system takes advantages of groups, like the parents don't speak English and it's a Chinese student, so we can just do it because we'll get away with it, like that sort of thing. I hate to be that, but it happens.
Right.
They will put programs in place at schools where they know the parents aren't pains in the or have the resources to be able to spend their time being a pain. So I immediately thought, like, did they do this because people aren't going to say anything? But if you say it's not just the Chinese students who want to learn their native language, it's other students. And there was a lot of other, not Chinese people at the meeting who were very unhappy.
Right.
And so the letter from the student, she's a NYU Shanghai. She's at NYU Shanghai.
Oh my
She's
God,
not.
let's get one, yeah.
She doesn't have a Chinese cultural background.
Even if you're Chinese, you may not have the Chinese culture. If your parents are,
Right.
Right.
English speaking and I don't even know what your question is, but I'm going to tell you that I just can't believe that was even left up to a principal.
That's the thing. Maybe there's also a
How can there-
transparency
I didn't
issue.
go to the
We
meeting.
don't really get who made that decision. The principal seems like speaking to the central
one
office
language
people, and
coordinator,
and the central office was saying no.
So is River Hill the only school that has this?
No, Centennial High. At least I know Centennial High in Atherton. I don't know.
But they were saying that Appleton has the instructor. Like they were saying.
Atherton,
Appleton-
I think does have the instructor. Atherton and Centennial, I'm pretty sure they have.
And then I was,
Yeah.
I just think that, are we going this way because they want to say more students are in our language programs? It's a way to get more numbers, and then you can just say, oh, we have all this, but not have not spend the money on teachers. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I'm always thinking like that. Like, oh, we have all these students taking Mandarin, but it's distance, so you don't have a teacher. You're not spending the money. It's cheaper to do distance.
Right.
So it's like, is this the way that they're going to try and go? It's all about image. Look at all the foreign language programs we have and all the students. But is it distance? I mean, because that doesn't count for me. I don't know.
And I don't know why. I didn't go to the meeting, but I read all the materials. And there were 11 kids signed up for Chinese AP, and only 9 signed up for Germany AP. But they let go the Chinese AP. did they explain or anybody ask that question? Why they decide to drop 11?
Is that because
AP?
someone brought up the certified teachers back up to,
Okay.
and that's when, and you know, it's like blah blah blah, certified teachers,
Yeah,
whatever.
so
And then
they
that's
give
when someone said, well, we have the Chinese language school, we have certified teachers. And I was like, why can't we?
Well, it's definitely not lacking of certified
Yeah.
teacher because
That
Mrs. Liang was there and she's still available to
she
teach.
must have been the one that
Let go.
that said it.
She's
And I was like,
centennial teacher.
and I'm sitting there like, okay, we have a group that has a sort of, we need, like,
Right.
why?
So they didn't really explain. Oh, nobody raised that question. Did anybody?
I'll
raise that
file
question?
MPIAs and find out.
So
The Germany.
I think the numbers we don't probably it's not really accurate. So
Oh, really? Oh.
so they have the I don't know what
That's
exactly.
the thing, like, I don't
number.
believe the numbers that I get. So it's, I think there's always more to the story. They figure out a way to make it spin, and I don't know why they would pick AP Chinese. Like, it just seems like
Yeah.
that would be a class that they would want a
Right.
good experience for students. I mean, it's
Yeah, so they said that like the criteria will be good if the class size is below 15. That's for.
But there are
But there are more.
many,
Yeah,
many
right.
classes below
Yeah.
15.
and
Why
people
they
will take
Right.
Spanish. What's his first name? Wu is his last name.
Who? Mrs. Liang?
No, the guy who always he posted about it. Wu is the last
Wu
name.
Chao.
Wu Chao?
Yeah, he was saying, I was going back and forth with him because
Uh-huh.
I was like, what the heck? Like, I couldn't believe it was distance. And he said that, Spanish, there's just more options, so more kids will go into it because it's more convenient and they have time. So you're kind of like inadvertently siphoning kids off into Spanish world because you've got more offerings, you've got like more convenient times. It's more of a sure thing, Spanish.
Right.
So kids will automatically go towards that, and I think if we had more offerings or more stable, if they think a program may not happen, they're not going to,
Right, exactly.
It's. I think that we need to take away that program may not happen. We need to figure out a different way. Like I said, use the resources we have. If you have 5 kids, you have 5 kids. Maybe we need to have a partnership with the language school, and they can come support that program, so that we have it and we can build it. We're not going to start off with 30. You got to slowly build these things and the reputation and everything else. So I think that people go into Spanish because it's a sure thing. It's not going to change. Definitely going to be Spanish. You know what I'm saying? So I think. He feels that they're going to try and do all language distance to increase the numbers. It's more flexible. You don't have to have a teacher,
Right.
but it's not telling the real story, and it's not giving you a good education as far as I'm concerned. Maybe some students can do it, but I can't even believe there's such a thing as distance learning Chinese. I'm like, how do you do it? Like, do you speak and then you disturb the people around you? Like,
I don't know.
How
I've never
is-
been to any.
and then they were having technical issues, and then they were I was like, oh my gosh, as if it's not hard enough. The kids
Right.
are like,
Yeah, they were
they
having.
can't even connect. They can't even. It's like, and their teachers over at Appleton, and I said, is this world class? I don't think so. I don't think so. Especially our schools where you may have more. I don't know. Like River Hill seems like it could have a pretty good Chinese language program if you really worked at it and got creative with how you ran it and how you staffed it. I think you could have a really good and a partnership with the Chinese cultural after school club, and I think you could really do it. But I just think we're going about it the wrong way. Anyway.
Okay. Move on.
Okay, so number 9 is what's your plan to increase the transparency for a budget plan and the general decision making process?
The budget is number 1. Like, I think that is where we just go. We can't do anything without knowing how we spend our money. And my experiences, just trying to get information through the Freedom of Information Act, were eye-opening. How they just don't give you stuff. Like, they'll say it's deleted and it's not. Like, So that led to the bill, HB 1105, which now that it's in the paper today, she's calling for people to comment. Have you had issues with the school system? So I think that once we have the credibility of knowing that they're actually giving us all the information, even budget reports, I mean, the accounting auditor can't even get like the real information. They're holding back reports, and I don't think we can, until we have access to the real and raw data, not the report with all the fancy pictures, we can't make decisions. And I think that is the number one focus for the board that comes on in December, is getting the real raw information. I personally have gone through some contracts, bids and contracts, and it is like trying to solve a murder mystery. Like you're just piecing things together. You can't, why is this, nothing is adding up, and they take funds from this department and move it over to this department, and there's no trail. There's no way to, also no way to see, well, you budgeted that, did you spend that much? You can't get that information. So I am not, full disclosure, an accountant, an auditor, but I know when things don't look right, and I know when to ask questions. And that, I mean, I have a call in to the county auditor today about a contract that I'm trying to piece together. And I think that's what you need on the board, are people that are just going to, they may not be the expert, but they know when to call an expert and say, what's going on here? I mean, and to be suspicious by nature is very important. But I think my work on the bill, on testifying before the Senate and the House for the MPIA bill, shows that that's a high priority for me, is transparency. I think the school system's focus where you're strong thing is, we need to look at where we're weak and fix it, and that's how we become strong. We don't become strong by just focusing on our strengths. And I think that's where we're just hiding, including budget stuff, things that aren't so good, and trying to cover it up with, where we're good, public relations and spin. So I think we have to own our mistakes. What we tell our kids, own your mistakes, own them and learn from them, and then grow. And I know I'm off topic, but I just think it's a philosophy that we need to, with everything, with the budget, we need to see where have we messed up, because clearly we have. When we're cutting materials of instruction to the classroom, and we're funding all these fancy programs, we have messed up. We've gone a different direction than we need to go for our students. So that is number one, is the budget, and it's tearing it apart. And let me just tell you, Christina, she, last year when I was trying to figure out the maintenance and why we have such a mold issues in a lot of our schools, I wanted to know how much money we deferred. How much did we defer projects, and then how much we spent. And so I went over to her house, and she has all the budget binders. She has sticky notes on every page, like you can tell, like she's like the mad scientist with the budget. Like she's got arrows, and like she's like, and this is, and look at this, like she is, I think we need her on the board. We need someone who can tear it apart. And I think that having her on the board, I know I should be like promoting another candidate, but I truly believe we need her to attack this budget and to lead other board members. Because right now we have a board that just, like, they have no idea. They approve.
Right.
They don't question anything. Well, best tries, but so I think that also bids and contracts, I think when they come up at board meetings, there should be more disclosure. We should have a history of the project. I want to see every contract that has gone into this project, like the new work day, which caused all the paycheck issues. I want to see every contract. I want to see, how many subcontractors, how many other extensions have been, and then I want to see how much we've actually paid, and what was budgeted. The board members don't get that information. They get like, we have this up, and then it's like blah, 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 and it all sounds good, especially when it's technology. Anything with technology gets approved. It's, oh, yeah, and it's unbelievable how things are just approved without any questioning of it. So bids and contracts, and just knowing how we're spending our money is number one. Then we can go on. We have a lot of work to do. when you're cutting the distance learning, I was shocked.
Right.
You know,
But yeah, I
that
know
shouldn't
they,
be cut. I mean, it's just definitely with all of it seemed like a lot of interest in the class too. Like, I don't get it. I know I'm back to it, and it was a previous question, but there was a lot of interest. There were a lot of parents at that meeting.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
It wasn't like 5 kids are in it, you know? It's like,
Yeah, there's 45 people there.
yeah.
45.
45 parents, right? And
Um,
other,
well,
or-
I only
There were
counted
some
total
students.
number.
There were some other schools, I think Centennial had a parent, but
oh,
it was just a lot of interest in it. Like, there was
Right.
more
Yeah.
people at that meeting than a typical PTA meeting. Like, there was a lot. It was, you know, when you have that many people at a meeting, you have a big deal.
right, exactly.
Okay, so next question: how many students and teachers have you? How many schools and teachers have you visited in the past 12 months? How many parents or parents groups have you met in the past 12 months? In your assessment, what are their main concerns?
I can't even count like how many people I've talked to. You can't really go into schools as a board member, but I go to schools just because I have 3 kids in the school system. So I've been to a lot, and I did congressional hearings. I judged, so I was in. I probably did it 5 times. I was in 5 different schools. Their concerns are, I think, overall, it's just not being heard. I think that applies to it. It's just not being included. Whatever your concern is, whatever your issue, you're not being heard. And I think that is that, and the class sizes I'm hearing that all the time now. It was shocking to some parents. There's 29 kids in a portable at Centennial Lane Elementary. That's crazy. So I think those 2 things right now is not having a voice, wanting to be more included in the decision-making process, and class sizes is what I'm hearing most about right now.
Okay. In number 11, there are many Asian students and Latino students in our school systems. Some schools have high proportion of Asian students, and some have high proportion of Latino students. Outside school time, their foods are primarily the food associated with their culture. Do you know whether school meals have these options? What would you do if the meals do not have such options?
I think now they're starting a little more creativity with the bars, like the salad bars.
Salad bar, yeah.
We certainly have a long way to go, though, with variety and cultural. Like, I think that is something that has not been explored. Is more cultural offerings, and it wouldn't be that hard. You know, it wouldn't be that hard. I mean, Mexican and Chinese, it would. So I think it's just a matter of priorities. I also think that we need to introduce more farm-to-table stuff. Like, we have a lot of farms in Howard County, and we could really formalize more of a partnership with offering fresh foods and which would go along with the cultural offerings. So I think it's a whole program. It's a whole issue of kids learning where their food comes from. Like, I think we should have more of students. I know that there are some schools that have the co-op gardening and things like that, but I know of other school districts where it is what they grow comes into the cafeteria. Like, there's a direct, so it's pretty cool. Yeah. So they see, and I think that's a worthwhile. I know it's off the cultural, but it plays into it. It's just bringing fresh food and certainly, like, when you have the Chinese New Year coming, let's have offerings in the cafeteria that celebrate that, and let's have, when it's Cinco de Mayo, let's have food in the cafeteria so we can connect everything. I think there's a lot of things that we can do much better. I know that I always feel like food and nutrition services is like the mafia or something. Like it's so hard to make changes. Like honestly, it is. You laugh, but it is really hard to make changes. I know that it's. I think it's a for-profit part of them. I think that there's some sort of profit you get or something that department gets, but it's just very resistant to change. And I think that it wouldn't be that hard to bring more variety, foods that students are familiar with and enjoy. And you know, I know my kids would be all over if we had a sushi bar, but it's something that would connect food, culture, classroom. You know, that it's a huge part of many cultures. You know, the food.
Right.
And it would not be good. You just have to look at the resources you have. Like I say, we have a lot of resources, and it wouldn't be that much money. And if we, you know, introducing co-op gardening and things like that, and partnerships with local farms, it just wouldn't cost that much. So I think it's just a matter of priorities. But it is better. I mean, they're doing the pilot
Right.
at certain schools where they're doing. But I was hearing like they have oranges out there, but like the first graders can't peel the orange. Like they spend their whole time peeling the orange. I mean, it's great. We have a fresh fruit, but you got to think like, okay, we got first grade. We should have it so it's easier to eat because they spent a half an hour peeling their orange. So.
Yeah, we're almost done. So we have some optional questions. I have to ask this one. It's personal. So my son has lunch right now at 1:45. So the lunchtime seems short.
Isn't school over by then?
Yeah, so I asked him.
When does he get out of school?
3:45.
1:45? This
Yeah.
poor kid did.
So I ask him every day, "Are you hungry?"
Right. So they offer snack time in between, right?
Yeah, so I always
That's
pack
the
him a
latest lunch I've
snack.
ever heard. Go ahead.
So the lunchtime seems short. Some elementary school kids have lunch as late as 1:30 here, but my son has 1:30.
That's the latest lunch I've ever heard of.
The main issue is there's not enough space in the cafeteria. Do you think it's possible to have lunch in the class for certain grades? It is not healthy for children to have lunch so late. It affects their study efficiency too when they're hungry. Do you have any suggestions on this issue?
I was reading about lunch in the classroom, and I think there was a whole, I forget what the issues were. I forget what I was reading. I blanked out. But I was reading about that after I did some research. And I don't know if it's a liability thing or what, but kids who buy lunch, then they have to go to the cafeteria and bring it back and that cuts into the classroom. So eating in the classroom is great if everybody brings their lunch, you know. So that's, I think, the limitation with that. I think that 1:45 is way too late. And but what school is it?
Pointers Run.
Pointers Run.
But the person raised that question is not from your school, right?
I'm not sure who is.
Yeah, but
It might be
1:45.
Tony.
So there's not enough room in Pointers Run cafeteria? Is that why it's like...
The cafeteria is pretty, they rotate, like every grade has half hour.
But this person who wrote in said that wasn't... I don't understand how they can have kids eating lunch in elementary school, young kids at 1:45. I think that is too late.
Yeah.
I think it plays into... I know what I would be like. I would not be pleasant, you know, trying to learn and not have eaten, not have... And when do they do recess? Like right before or after?
They have recess before.
Yeah, I mean, as an adult, I just can't imagine young kids. So I think that is... You definitely have a valid concern. That's way too late. 1 o'clock was the latest I had heard of before. It's getting later and later. They're going to be like dismissing at lunch pretty soon. But I think that the classroom thing is just because there's kids that, you know, buy lunch and it would just take too much time. Certainly, there's got to be some other alternatives.
Yeah, I think they can have like 2 grades at the same time.
Maybe they don't have enough space.
We got to be able to do something though, because that's...
My daughters never had lunch that late, but one of them had 1 year had lunch at 10:30. I mean, that's ridiculous. 'Cause
Elementary
we just-
school?
Yeah.
I mean, high school I can see because I get it, but
Right.
10:30.
They just went to school. Yeah,
They just got to school like
Right.
9:30.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, my kids last year, my kids
Then they
were
have
like
to, like,
that.
you know, go to math at 2:00. Like, how are they even able to think? I mean, honestly, there's that. Yeah, I don't have an answer for that, but I'm gonna.
That's a problem.
It's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good. I don't understand how the elementary school that young, these kids, so yeah, I don't have an answer to that. I agree with you. I think it's ridiculous. I don't think eating in the classroom is a viable option, though if everybody brought their lunch, it would be fine. But
If they tell the parents you have to bring lunch so your kids could eat earlier, I would do it, but not everybody.
yeah, but some
can.
kids like free and reduced lunch. Like some kids, like
Right.
they that's where they get their food is the cafeteria. They don't have food at home, so it's. There's, you know, like I said, there's always an answer. You just got to be creative and open-minded.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. Those poor kids.
Okay.
Okay, so another question. HCPSS gives out 3 PAC tests and 2 or 3 MAP tests each year. It consumes many hours of instruction time. What are your views on these standardized tests?
Too much testing, too much teaching to the test, too much wasted time. We need to make our days more meaningful, and the MAP testing, I know some people love it, but the data doesn't support it so far, and I agree. We have too much testing. We need to. I know we have state mandated things we have to do, but we need to look at the local level what we can take away, because no kid will tell you they enjoy all the testing. No parent will tell you, I really like that my kid gets tested all the time. I mean, it's nice to have data to guide you, but we have to weigh the benefits, and is it worth the data, worth classroom time when they could be learning? So as a parent, I agree. I think we've lost our way, and being data driven, I think we need to.
And the problem is teachers don't know how to use MAP test.
It was another
We spend
program
so much-
rolled out
right.
without
we spend
any.
so much time and money, and and teachers don't use it.
No.
So
We roll. It seems like we just roll out these things, and we don't prepare teachers enough to make it worthwhile. You know, they just. You know, they're under the gun. They get these things at the beginning of the school year. We're going to do this. You know, I can't tell you how many. The week before school starts, how many teachers sent to me stuff? Oh my God, we're doing this now. I'm like, the week before school starts, they start all these programs, and it's not worth it if the teacher's not on board, not knowledgeable. And what are we doing with the data? I think we need to. Like I said, we've lost our way, and we need to stop looking at kids as data. The teachers can tell us how our kids are doing. Like, I'm pretty sure most teachers can say whether a kid is, you know, on track or, you know, it. So, and then all the time spent teaching how to take the test.
right.
So, yeah.
Okay, I think that's all.
Sorry
it's
if I rambled.
11:52.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, because
good night.
I didn't go to every interview, but whenever I'm available, I go to interview. One is that because this is new, about
So it was
yeah.
closing statement first, right?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, closing statement. Oh, I'm not prepared. Anything. I thought it was just opening statement.
You don't have to do it, right?
Yeah, you don't have to.
Yeah.
It just we offer this opportunity, but you
Yeah.
don't have to.
Maybe I will at that. Let me put to that. Okay, go ahead, Governor Hogan.
Okay, so I'm gonna end this. Okay.
As people go to vote, I think it's important to remember it's not about electing people who necessarily think exactly like you do or share the same political philosophies or any of that. I think it's more important to elect people who you believe will listen to what your thoughts are and your ideas, and it's important to have a board of education that is diverse in thought and background, because you can challenge each other and you do the work necessary to defend your position and to really go full force with it. So I think what you want in a board member is someone who's going to stand up for the community, listen to the community, and not afraid to ruffle anybody's feathers, to have their voices heard. So I think, I think people who I've heard, we need like-minded people on the Board of Education. I don't believe that to be true. I think that's how we've gotten to where we are. We have very like-minded people on the board who agree with everything and don't question anything and don't challenge each other, with the exception of 2 people. So I think that you need to look at the candidates who have proven that they will stand up for you, and they will advocate, and they will do the work necessary to defend your position and their position. So I think you need to look at that, the personalities and what they have done for the school system. I believe that I have been, since last year, I have been doing that. I have been advocating for parents and for teachers, and I've shown that I'm not afraid to ruffle anyone's feathers. I have ruffled the feathers of many people, including the superintendent, and I don't care. I'm doing this for, like I said in my opening statement, to be the Board of Education member that I felt my community needed, that I felt other communities that have been neglected needed. So I hope that you will consider voting for someone who has already proven what kind of Board of Education member that they will be. Thank you.
Okay. And,
Okay.
I rambled again.
Thank you very much. And I said this, it's not a question, but I said to everybody that I have